Dina, let's start. I'm going to talk to you about the war in a minute, but I want to ask you about because a lot of this is because of a distraction, I believe, from the Epstein files, and I'm sure you saw the reporting just a week ago that some of the files that had been removed, which contained Donald Trump's name and some of the most serious allegations, especially against him, came from in the document in the files that were removed and then put back. A 13-year-old girl claiming that Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump had raped her. And look, it's a tough thing to talk about, but why would and the excuse that they gave was that they were um, duplicates and they were removed and it was an error. But why would they remove things that specifically mentioned Donald Trump like that? It was
Mm.
a lot of documents that mentioned him that were removed.
Oh my gosh, so many documents that mention. I know people are calling it Operation Epstein Fury. I don't know if you've seen that phrase instead of his epic
Yes.
fury that
Yeah.
he's calling it. Yeah, so many. The polling shows the huge percentage of the American public think we're going to war with Iran to distract from Epstein. The- It it's a cover up upon a cover up upon a cover up upon a cover up. I mean, I don't know how many different cover ups you can go here, but yeah, clearly the DOJ, you could just tell by some of the redactions where they tried to take out Don and instead they were taking out the word don't. You know, they were clearly going in there and taking it out. And the FBI interviews having to do with claims that he, sexually abused underage children, the fact that those went missing and were really only found because of the independent reporter, actually, who was
Hmm.
the first one to comb through it because they did that 3 million dump of documents. And also, I don't know if you saw this. It was interesting, and maybe more will be revealed a little bit. But there was a witness who testified in front of the oversight committee behind closed doors yesterday, and Ro Khanna came out and said that he had said something about that particular witness having to do with Trump and Epstein, and then the witness walked it back. So, and according to Ro Khanna, we'll have to see what the transcript says, but there may have been misunderstanding about that. But we are just scratching the surface about the information in there, Dom. I mean, I don't know what you even think, but I I can't even imagine how much more is in there. But I think it's clear at this point that Kash Patel lied to Congress over the summer when he said there was no evidence of co-conspirators, no evidence of anybody else sex trafficking other than Trump. The FBI had compiled that list with the different people that had specifically talked about Trump and given it to the FBI. You could see the date on that was, I think they compiled that list in August, and Kash Patel testified weeks later. So, yeah, there's definitely a cover up going around, and he's leading us into so many distractions because of it.
Well, okay, Ben, you bring up a couple of great points. If you Kash Patel, if he lied to Congress, he's under oath when he's testifying in front of Congress. So then, what are the consequences for him? Are there none?
There are. It just would take the DOJ, which not this DOJ wouldn't do anything, of perjury. And I think that there should be some perjury charges. You and I talked about this after in another live. Who should be the next attorney general under a Democratic president? But that person is going to be busy because absolutely, we should not somehow have, like, we talk about Trump all the time because Trump is awful, but all the rest of the cabinet people, the level of public service they are at, we as a people have given them so much power. Kash Patel, the head of the FBI, the immense amount of power he is borrowing from the people to have the audacity to then go in front of Congress and lie, that should absolutely have a consequence. It's not a difficult consequence. It's a perjury charge, which another DOJ, Bondi certainly won't do it, but another DOJ should. And there are senators already talking about this. They're already saying we can see, or AOC may have been the one to say. Somebody just said in an interview recently, we already know there's so much lying. It's just a matter of somebody being willing to bring the charges.
Okay, so excuse me, because when Donald Trump is no longer around, this is all over for them. So if he doesn't preemptively pardon them, then what happens to them? And if he does pardon them, what happens to them? Can they still suffer consequences?
Well, the interesting thing will be, well, first of all, let's talk about what happened with Christy Nome, right? Because
Okay.
everybody assumes if you do Trump's bidding, he's got your back. And that is definitely not the case. Christy Nome is example number one. She probably also lied to Congress at some point with her thing, but he didn't like the fact that she said the ad was his idea. Even though honestly, when she gives that story, it sounds very much like something he would want to have been done. But he didn't like the fact that she said that. She's done. Will she get pardoned? Probably not because she hurt his feelings, right? So they should not, first of all, assume they're going to get pardoned because he is loyal to nobody but himself. He will only do it if he thinks it serves him. So that's number one. Number two, if he overuses the pardon power and decides to do like really blanket pardons, I think that will end up in front of the Supreme Court because a pardon is meant
Ah.
to be the last check of our justice system, not necessarily just a blanket get out of free jail card.
Oh, wow. Okay. So do you think it'll end up in front of the Supreme Court and that those pardons, will be contested and possibly overturned?
If he does what he if he does what he will almost need to do after the end of the 4 years to make sure nobody has any criminal liability. I mean, the numbers are going to stack up here, right, Don? I mean, my gosh, the pardon line is going to be long. If he does some really large blanket pardon, at some point it becomes, you have to ask, is this what the pardon power was intended for? And I would
Yeah.
and I think that is a real question. It's really just meant to be like, hey, we're in a democracy. We have a justice system. We give you a lawyer, but what if the lawyer's not great? Yes, you have a chance to appeal, but what if the judges are all, horrible judges? They don't see your case. At the end of the day, you have the governor or the president who can take one last look at your case and that's what it's meant for, not every single ally of mine, I'm going to have them do my bidding regardless of the law and then pardon them. I think that's a really
Ye
good argument for the
that's
Supreme Court.
that's what it's become, right?
And
So,
yeah, exactly.
you have people out there, reportedly Corey Lewandowski, telling people, "I can do whatever I want because Donald
Yeah.
Trump is gonna pardon me." You have, reportedly members of Doge saying, "I can do whatever I want, even if it's, the American people's personal information, do whatever I want. The president will just pardon me." And so, I do think that there is a case there, but whether this Supreme Court is gonna go along with it, that's a whole 'nother story. As my grandmother would say, "That's a horse of another color."
The Supreme Court, though, they believe in presidential power, like an expanded view of it, the executive unitary theory. But look they struck down his tariffs. I don't know if I were Pam Bondi, let's say. Pam Bondi is a good example. She's going to go in front of the oversight committee. She cannot not lie and please Trump, right, Dom? Like there's just no in between. If she tells the truth, Trump will be mad. She's in a tough situation because she's also a lawyer and the bar association can disbar her. Hello, Lindsay Halligan is looking at that down in Florida. So, but she's a good example. She's a lawyer. She knows the consequences. Are you really going to count on this Supreme Court that, yes, they believe in presidential power, but sometimes rein him in a way that you don't expect? I wouldn't. I
Mhm.
wouldn't. I wouldn't trust my entire. First of all, I wouldn't trust Trump. And come on, he's not
No.
a loyal guy.
No, he's not okay. He's not a loyal guy, and he's not okay. You're right about that, and that's where I was going. So let's start um, with Pam Bondi.
Okay.
What happens to her after this? Because you mentioned the bar association, she could be disbarred, and some of the things. I mean, look at the way she conducted herself at those hearings. There may be looking at it. Lindsay Halligan is going through it now. What happens to her? I do believe that she will suffer some consequences, and I do believe that for her and Kristi Noem and the people who are below Pam Bondi in certain areas of the Justice Department, that they will face consequences as well because Minnesota may on a state level, I think that they may be able to charge them with something for breaking some sort of state law, especially undermining investigations or covering up the
Mhm.
deaths of people's deaths.
I think you're absolutely right. I mean, we have complicated, complex, layered justice system. And a creative lawyer, it's all about creativity in the law, frankly. Uh, it's all about what kind of creative way can you either apply the law or defend yourself against the law. And yeah, you could have maybe obstruction charges, fraud. I mean, there's so many different ways. And I do think that somebody like Pam Bondi, let's, the first time around, the lawyers around him suffered the most. Almost every lawyer around him
Ah, talk to
basically
me
was
about that.
disbarred, right? I mean, we have Rudy Giuliani, of course, being the main one, but then we have, oh my gosh, the female in Georgia. Why am I forgetting her name? She was the one. I it,
Oh, Bonnie Willis?
you know, Finding Willis. No, although she suffered under Trump
There's
in a different
Lisa
way.
Cook.
It was no,
Oh,
it was
no,
his
it was a
lawyer.
Trump lawyer.
Yeah, there was a Trump
Oh,
lawyer.
I know who you're
Not
talking
Sidney
about.
Powell, although Sidney Powell.
Daba, Abba, what's her name?
Oh, and
Lena
Haba.
Haba?
I mean, there are just I'm almost forgetting, to be honest, the first term lawyers that suffer because there's so many the second time around. But they almost all lost their bar license. One of them lost it here in California. They without fail, because it doesn't take the DOJ to do something about it. We actually have a professional licensing association that will go after them. And
Are you
you
talking
raised
about
it.
Sidney Powell?
Sidney Powell, exactly. Sidney Powell, and
That's
then
her, yes.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, the lawyers, because of the bar association, suffered the biggest consequences the first time around. And so Pam Bondi and, like you said, the other high end DOJ career officials who are maybe ignoring court orders or maybe even lying to the judges, or that's you can't do that either. Talk about that's how a lot of them actually got in trouble the first time around, like Rudy Giuliani. It was for making statements to the court that he knew was false or was misleading the court. I think,
Mhm.
Don, if you and I had control over like what we could do, I wonder what you would do. But like, if I could come up with a law, I would come up with a law to have public officials not be able to lie to the public.
Yes, I would have a public accountability law.
Yeah. I mean, it's
Yeah,
crazy to me that you can't lie to a court, right? But
right.
a newspaper can't lie about that public official, right? But a public official can get on a podium. He can be in his Oval Office, the office we gave him, and lie to the people. And there's zero consequence or law around that. That's stunning to me, considering how many laws we actually do have to restrict speech. That would
Yeah.
be a law. If I had
Tr
like my magic tool.
Trump lawyers have Sidney Powell from Georgia, Jenna Ellis.
Jenna Ellis.
It's
Yes.
yeah.
That was the name
I
I was
don't know what
thinking of.
happened to both of those. Is that Jenna Ellis? Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
So then what
took
happens?
a plea, I think, in Georgia. Jenna
She
Ellis.
did.
She took the plea when she thought that case was going to move forward. She and somebody else, I think another man.
Wow. Oh, she was suspended from she faced discipline charges. I didn't realize that. Suspended after guilty plea.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness. I'm getting feedback on your end, by the way. I'm hearing myself,
Oh,
by the way,
sure.
just so
Okay.
you know. I don't know
How
what's
about
going
that?
on.
Is that a
But,
little better?
no, I'm not sure if it's still there. Yeah, it's still there. But just real quickly then, let's talk about what happens to Kristi Noem.
Yeah. I know. Well, I mean, I think that will be interesting whether or not she faces anything even under Pam Bondi's DOJ, because if Trump doesn't like her enough, he might have Pam Bondi go after her. That'll be
Oh,
interesting. I don't know. I mean, he seems to be very upset about the fact that she said the ad was, directed by him. The fact that she could have more of than a perjury charge, though. She could have outright fraud, because it sounds like that $134 million of the 220 ad went to that company that was formed 7 days before it got the money, and it was attached to her. So there might be a lot more than just perjury that she's charged for and should be.
can you face any legal consequences for stooping your coworker, your special whatever advisor?
That's a really good question. Like, it probably depends what kind of sexual harassment laws are in the government specifically. Don't think that will probably get enforced anywhere. But no, that would be more of a civil. civil suit, but I don't know if Corey's gonna try to sue under that. Maybe her husband will sue. I felt really bad for him sitting behind her. I don't know, in those testimony, I'm like, "Oh, that's a rough one."
Yeah, I wonder what that conversation was like, that car ride was like on the way home.
100%, 100%. I mean,
Dina,
plenty
don't
of women have done that over the years. It's usually not the guy who sits behind the wife during that.
Dina, you're the best. Thank you so much for coming on and giving us some talk about who suffers the consequences in this Trump regime. And I didn't real quickly. I didn't not real quickly, but
Yeah.
I want to talk about the war. This look the new supreme leader in Iran is now saying there's going to be retaliation, especially for the girls' school. But I don't know if this is a war crime or what. But I think
Mhm.
it was a mistake. But hitting that school, and he says that girls' school is really one of the main reasons they're gonna suffer retaliation. But what happens legally with our
Mhm.
military, with our commander in chief or whatever for, this is an atrocity.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are international tribunals that look into this, and then our own military court looks into this as well. We had, so many different lower level type of atrocities with claims of torture, et cetera, during Iraq and Afghanistan. And we had our own military courts trials. So it's, you know, there was at least apart from Trump and Hegseth, some internal investigation and accountability, which to me showed that there like is a system within the system that is still working a little bit. But Trump needs to get on there. He is commander in chief and absolutely own it and apologize for it. And he hasn't. And it's really disgusting and such a shame for those children and their families. But I imagine, and there should be both domestic and international investigations and accountability for that for sure.
Thank you, Dina.
Okay, and I have to get a Lemon Live sweatshirt for the next one. I like that one. That's pretty cool. I like the
Yeah,
colors.
and then oh my god, we got something for you. We got another there's a blue in here,
Oh,
and then
fun.
we've got the Lemon
Oh,
Nation.
that's fun. I like
So,
both of them.
yeah.
I like blue and yellow. The yellow could actually match my background. Maybe I should do that for the next one.
Yeah, there's one like this that has yellow on it. There's a blue one that has a yellow on it. I don't have it here, but it looks more kinda like this. So,
Oh, that's cool.
um yeah. So,
Okay,
listen, if you
fun.
want, go to donlemon.com and click on merch, and also
Okay.
make sure you follow Dina, on Substack and on all of her platforms socially. Same thing for me on all the platforms, Substack, Twitch, uh, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube, all right? And smash the screen. Thank you,
Oh my gosh,
Dina.
thank
We'll
you.
see you
I know
soon.
you're out there accepting awards left and right and all that. So it was so great for you to take time and to talk today. I was excited.
Of course, anytime, and thanks for being a friend of the show.
Of course.
Bye-bye.